Why don't we start with some from the files here before we go to Saudi Arabia? And I know we've been doing Paul Heyman.
Now wait a minute.
You've been doing Paul Heyman. What I meant to say is, I know we've been reviewing.
I tell you, hey.
What did he write to you, Jim? That night with you was so special.
Oh, come on now. He said, thank you for one of the greatest nights of my life, but it was at Sabatino's. So,
I'll wait for you at the tunnel. I think that's what it said.
No, he did not say that. He did not say there was nothing about a tunnel involved. It was behind a dumpster, but we're not going there either.
No, not today. But we will return to the Paul Heyman file, but we're going to take a break and visit a different file. I bumped into one that was also surprisingly large, like the Paul Heyman file. And let me grab this here.
Shockingly big file.
Jim, I have in my hand.
And of course, by the way, this you didn't even mention, this is from the files of the Wrestling News that are held and curated by Arcadian Vanguard.
That is correct. Everything that was a part of the collection of the Wrestling News, Pro Wrestling Enterprises, Wrestling Review, The Rings Wrestling, Major League Wrestling Programs, and various other publications. And this is the Gory Guerrero file.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. No, he was a fine man. There was no reason to say,
I just said, no, that's a man. I would have never picked that name out in a million years. I would have even thought he had a large file, but apparently it's ginormous.
Well, let me get through. There's a lot of pictures of the family members, the various family members. Here's an original piece of artwork. Gory Guerrero, Mexico's contribution to the wrestling world, has made himself quite a name with his cyclonic and aggressive style, wrestling knowledge, unlimited. And there's some artwork there. Maybe we'll post that one after the fact. I'm trying to get to some correspondence. Lots and lots of family pictures. A whole bunch of pictures.
Now, what era?
Everything. Seemingly Gory's career and everything from the start of the career of his children. I don't know if there's too much of Eddie Guerrero here. I'll have to check again. This is a gigantic. This is a Jim Cornette photo of Hector. Yeah, Hector Guerrero, photo by Jim Cornette. What'd you think of Hector in Mexico? What'd you think of Hector in Memphis in 81?
No, 79.
Oh, 79.
He was 79. He was tremendous because here's the thing. Hector, obviously, Guerrero was well versed in the lucha style, but he also could work with Americans and incorporate lucha into the American style so that it didn't come off caca. And of course, now bear in mind, this was 1979, so both Mexican and American wrestling looked a lot more legitimate then. But it was because he had a completely different style. He was doing the flying head scissors, but instead of the Ricky and Robert Gibson Americanized flying head scissors, he was doing the ankle, where they would jump up and he'd fucking catch the guy's head with his ankles and fucking spin and take him down. And the reverse fucking presses where he'd reverse direction in midair and the big flying leg drops and all this shit. And it was exciting because he was the one guy on the card doing that style. And as a smaller, he was 6 feet tall, but he was thin. But as a smaller baby face doing the flying, it made sense. The bigger heels couldn't deal with it. And he could sell his ass off properly and get fucking heat on the heel and then make a fiery comeback. He was really good. And the fans loved him because they hadn't seen that type of work.
Of course, the famous angle where Austin Idol was the Mente Negro produced the famous line from Lance Russell, Hector, tell him in Mexican to get out of here.
Yeah, the no good son of a guy.
I have a letter here to Norman Keitzer when he was still in New York. This is from International City Wrestling Club, Wrestling Lucha Libre, El Paso, Texas, June 11th, 1974.
And of course, we should mention Gory Guerrero was the promoter in El Paso by this time.
That's right. Actually, the actual letter, unlike the letterhead on the envelope, the letter says Guerrero Resources, Inc. under Wrestling Lucha Libre. Dear Mr. Keitzer, received the magazines and have sold some, and look forward to perhaps being able to build the sales up. In reference as to who we would like to see in the Western edition here in El Paso, the popular boys are Ricky Romero, Dory Funk Jr., and the Kozak brothers. There are also 2 very good Mexican lady wrestlers, which I will make an effort to furnish you copy and pictures in the near future, which might be more than worthwhile considering for your publication also. Yeah, that is the way it says that.
Yes.
Enclosed is some information which I thought you would like to have. Didn't know if you had this particular information in your files or not. Anytime I could be of assistance, don't hesitate to ask. Sincerely, Salvador Guerrero Jr., Gory Guerrero. And it's signed, and he attached from a magazine, and I'm not sure which one, The History of the World's Junior Heavyweight Championship by Leroy McGurk.
Oh.
And it says, it's written in apparently pencil here, found the missing link to the World's Light Heavyweight Championship. On next page, seem it later became the Junior Heavyweight until the tournament in Chicago. I am sure Leroy McGurk would know more about it. So I guess there was some question about the title and who had it and what claim people had. I mean, obviously the pictures here, Rip Kirby, John Swensky, Vern Gagne, Leroy McGurk, Danny McShane, Baron Leone. The junior heavyweight title did have a weird history in terms of its placement on the card and the people who had it. At a certain point, they stopped being elevated to anything past that point.
Well, there was more legitimate call for a world junior heavyweight champion in the 40s and 50s and some even into the 60s because of Danny Hodge. I mean, he was a special case. He carried it for all of the 60s for the most part. Dropped it for a month to Sputnik Monroe in Oklahoma to win it back as Sputnik was scared to fucking death. He didn't want it because he didn't want Danny to beat him up trying to get it back. But there were junior heavyweight territories. Tennessee was one. They used, at one point, Nick Gulas and Roy Welch used the World Junior Heavyweight title, and even in the pre-TV days, as their, Holy Grail championship rather than the World Heavyweight title, because it was a lighter or junior heavyweight territory. And some of the other territories in the South were like that. But, except for Hodge, like I say, in the 60s, really it had kind of gone by the wayside. In the early 70s, Ken Mantell, dude, I can't believe the same balding, pudgy, sad, beagle-faced motherfucker that was my booker in 1985 was the World Junior Heavyweight Wrestling Champion in 1975. But it wasn't drawing any money, and it would be featured, if a popular Hispanic star in California was going to go for it, or Nick and Roy would still feature a World Junior Heavyweight title match every once in a while, but for the most part, it was, yeah.
I have some photos here, just looking at the captions at the back, or on the back of these, I should say. Chavo Guerrero gets tangled up in the ropes after Dory Funk attack. Who Chavo pinned? And the photos by Mike Lano. But instead of like a C with a circle for copyright, it has an R circled. I guess it's restricted use. Here's another photo.
Possibly ripped off.
Balderas Bullring, September 3rd, 1967, Juarez, Mexico. Gory Guerrero with a vicious knee lift that sends the medic #1 reeling. Photo by Bill Mobley, Amarillo, Texas.
Oh. Yeah, a lot of those old 60s photos are from Bill Mobley. Never met the gentleman, but I recognize the name.
And here, once again, here's another letter from Gory to Norm Keitzer, going over this history. May 8th, 74, Dear Mr. Keitzer, I'm enclosing a complete history of the Light Heavyweight Championship belt to the best of my knowledge. Also, I'm answering your questions as honestly and as impartially as to help you along with the story that I appreciate very much. Here are the questions. I know that you still wrestle occasionally, but do you still today claim to be the world's light heavyweight champion? Yes, I still wrestle, and I still claim the championship. I promote in El Paso and Juarez, Mexico, at the same time. And it's here that I mostly defend my title. So let's stop there. We're talking about the light heavyweight championship. Here's Gory Guerrero saying he's the champion in 74, at least in his towns.
Well, now, the light heavyweight and the junior heavyweight title was two different things. And the light heavyweight championship had been one of the traditional belts in Mexico because they all had they had more weight classes that were actually pushed, had stars in them. And I don't know what their situation was with the light heavyweight title, but maybe, and with the documents that he had there, he's trying to draw some type of lineage to the light heavyweight title, or at least the one he claimed, and the junior heavyweight title in the States or whatever. But it wasn't uncommon for a lot of the big stars in Lucha Libre to have a belt. And I think, didn't Mascaras just keep some kind of belt for like decades? And they just
was it Eddie Einhorn's?
It might have been that. Yeah, I think it was. He just said, "Fuck it, I'll just keep it because I never lost it." They would keep the belt if they never happen to lose it. Or even if they did happen to lose it, but not a lot of people heard about it, they just claimed to still be the champion. And he's defending it in the two towns he promotes. So, I don't know that it was a hot national and international championship at that point.
Question 2. Again, these are written questions that were submitted to Gory Guerrero. It is not myself, but the National Wrestling Alliance that recognizes the claim of the title of Rey Mendoza. Since your promotions are under the banner of the NWA, do you recognize Mendoza? The answer? Definitely no. I will not recognize anybody until I'm defeated in the ring for the belt.
In one of the two towns that I promote.
Question 3. Would you like to wrestle Mendoza for the title, his claim against yours, with the winner becoming undisputed champion? Assuming that Mendoza would sign for such a match and the percentage were right for both of you. The answer? Yes. I am sure Mendoza would sign, but the wrestling promoter in Mexico City, Mr. Salvador Luderoth Jr., would not let him. In the 1971 NWA convention in Mexico City, with the hopes of ridding of the problem for promotional purposes, I offered to do so and was turned down. I must confess that before the title stripping in 1966, they had made a similar offer to do in 1963. I had then started my promotions here, and the contract was not direct, so I turned it down. I came in through the Wrestlers Union, and I was not getting along with them at that time.
Now, and by the way, he's not bullshitting. In Mexico, they had at one time, I guess they still have, a Wrestlers Union, and some of the commissions actually treated the business legitimately at that point. So there was all kinds of shit you could do.
And again, talking about these issues, the NWA convention in Mexico City, he was stripped of the title. He was willing to unify it or have a big champion versus champion or claim versus claim match, and Salvador Luderoth, that's CMLL, but he turned it down.
Well, and that's like even more than the United States. There was always guys that when they were on the outs with a promoter, I ain't gonna book that son of a bitch, right? But
no one more than
they carry it. Well, yeah, they carry it to this day that one of their wrestlers can't work on a show where another of the company wrestlers is on, and all this stuff and everything. So they blackball people heavy down there.
The next question. You enclosed a list of championship matches in which you defended the title from 1960 to 1967. Have you defended the belt you hold since then? The answer? Yes, 4 times more, and getting ready for another title defense this month.
4 times in 7 years?
The next question. I believe you have 2 sons who are professional wrestlers. Though I am not sure of this, would you please include some photos of them and also any short information so I can include a mention in the story? I have a family of 6, is the answer. 4 boys and 2 girls. 3 of my boys are wrestling professionally. I'm including a picture of each separately with their respective school record. So this is early before anyone really knew about all the kids.
Well, now, wait, what date did you say it was? 74?
74. It is May 8th, 74.
When did Chavo first start getting attention in L.A.?
Was it 75? Because by 76, he was over there. So it must be 75.
And Mondo followed him to L.A., or I don't mean followed him, but came afterwards. Hector was younger, so this would have been right about the year before anybody knew really nationally widely who the Guerreros were. But then, Chavo was on Georgia TV and they spread quickly.
The next question. As a promoter, are you a member of the National Wrestling Alliance or associated with an NWA booking office? From the wrestlers on the cards, I assume you work with the Amarillo booking office. Here's the answer. I am not a member of the NWA. That's because I do not have a booking office, but work with the booking office in Amarillo. The Funk Boys, that's actually the whole sentence. The Funk Boys. The Juarez promotion is completely independent from the El Paso office, and there I am supposed to be bucking Luderoth, and he is a member of the Alliance. So let's stop there. Him running any town in Mexico is him bucking Salvador Luderoth.
Yeah, well, and El Paso, for anybody not familiar with Texas geography, is in West Texas, about as far West Texas as you can get. And it's actually a bigger city than either Amarillo or Lubbock, at least it used to be. And it was when we were out there in 85, when Amarillo and Lubbock were kind of like, blah, well, we did $8,000 or $12,000. You go to El Paso, it's $30,000 at $6 and $8 tickets or whatever. So that was, since Gory Guerrero, that was his hometown. He had the ins and could get favorable rates on things, or the building or the TV or whatever the case. He was the local promoter for World Class in that city, but then World Class didn't run anything in Mexico, so he's jumping over to Juarez and using completely different talent that were Lucha guys exclusively, but he's got the ins in that building, in that town also, for the building and whatever, so he can promote that. He's doing his own thing.
The final question here. At this time, in 1974, if you do not seek a match with Mendoza, how do you think the situation of the World's Light Heavyweight Championship should be settled? The answer? I do seek a match with Mendoza, but I doubt it will come about. I am of the firm belief that championships are won and lost in the ring, and not because of promotional differences. I have offered to settle the whole thing under their conditions, but the response has been negative. I do confess that if an offer would be made now, I would let my promotional desires influence me. I would like them to be recognized and dealt with as far as Mexico City is concerned. I hope you find all this material useful in preparing the story on the Light Heavyweight Championship belt. If I may be of any other service to you, please feel free to call on me in regards to this or any other matter. Thanking you again, I am, yours truly, Salvador Gory Guerrero.
How old was he at that point in 1974?
Well, that's the thing. When I said, he was saying he was still the champion, in 74, I know he was still wrestling. A lot of guys never retire, but, he was up there. I mean, he was El Santo's partner years and years earlier.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, the Sheik had the U.S. belt until forever. So, but again, he was defending it on, his own shows and or then, whoever would book him, but he wasn't about to lose it. But
he was born in 21.
So he was 53 at that point in time, and apparently on the outs with, the office, as they say. And say that's, I think when Adrian Street, because he got sideways with Joint Promotions, And he started doing independent shit, which is why he ended up, moving to the States. But I think he had kept some kind of belt or championship, or was still the champion, hadn't dropped it or whatever. And it happens, especially in international wrestling and in the older days where there wasn't, as much control over the particular promotion's championship as happened because everybody kept doing this shit.
Here's the bios he sent of his children. Sal Chavo Guerrero, 4-year varsity letterman in high school, team champion in 1967. 1969 to 1971, 2-year letterman in college, UTEP. 1968, 3rd place in Mexico Olympic tryouts.
I didn't know that.
Only El Pasoan to make the varsity team in college. 1972 to 1974, Jefferson High School coach in wrestling and football district champs, wrestling district champs. In 2 years have developed the team to 6th place in the state of Texas in wrestling. His high school wrestling record, 38-9-1. College record, 24-4. Armando Guerrero, Mondo, 67 city champs by team. 68 city champion, 120-pound weight division. Captain of the wrestling team for 2 years. 68 to 69, have 4 second-place medals and 1 first-place medal. 3 years of judo, ranked as a first-degree purple belt, Shotokan, in Mexico. Summer of 68, participated in the juvenile games. Juegos.
They were just so silly.
Juegos Juveniles, held in Veracruz, Mexico, was eliminated. And also this Hector here, I won't go through everything, a lot of the same stuff. 2 years judo orange belt, 4 years of football. So this is early in everyone's career. And again, the promoter is now in touch with the person, like we've dealt with previous episodes of From the Files, selling him programs, selling him magazines, things he could sell at the newsstand.
And, the West edition that Norm Keitzer had referenced in the letter was, they did NWA East, which covered the Carolinas and the Tennessee Territory and Georgia and Florida. But NWA West was for the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, where's the state I'm searching for? Missouri, McGurk, Missouri, and Arkansas, that area, and out into West Texas. And they had a separate edition trying to feature those wrestlers, especially with them on the cover, so they could sell more magazines.
I have here another letter. This is part of an envelope with a bunch of stuff. This is slightly before the previous thing I read, but I guess it may clarify some of it. March 12th, 74. Dear Mr. Keitzer, I received your request this past week, and I hope that the information I have will be of value to you. As a courtesy to you, I phoned Mexico City, Mexico, in your behalf. Rey Mendoza is still champion. El Solitario has not regained the title. As a point of interest, which I believe you are not aware of, is that I possess the original, that's in caps, light heavyweight world's championship belt. I won this championship belt on July 29th, 1960, in Mexico City, from Rey Mendoza. I have today this belt in my possession.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Stop the presses for a second. He won this is 1974. He won the belt in 1960 from the guy that currently has the belt now?
That currently has the championship now, I guess.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, boy, talk about stale at the top of the card, but go ahead.
I have today this belt in my possession because I refuse to defend my championship belt exclusively in Mexico. That's in caps, exclusively. The reason for this was that the conditions and percentages were not compatible. As a result of my action, I was stripped of the belt and the title without any notice. The NWA, in parentheses Mexico City, created another belt and title to be available for future competitions. I have enclosed documents and photos supporting my statements. I have other documents should you desire them. Should you wish to write an article on this, in caps, injustice.
Injustice. So it sounds like that he said the percentages weren't right. He wasn't making any money in Mexico with this belt, but Gory Guerrero had runs in Texas and different places in the United States. I don't know his career verbatim off the top of my head, but it sounds like he went and wasn't working for them in Mexico when he had a better fucking spot, and they said, fuck it, and stripped him of the belt. Is that what it sounds like to you?
Do you know that no matter where you might look, that there is no record of my having won this light heavyweight championship of the world? I thought that since you asked about the championship record, that this might be of special interest to you for a feature article. I am most willing to cooperate with you completely on the facts, pictures, or other documents you may desire. Yours in wrestling, Sal Gory Guerrero. And with this package appears to be copies of handwritten notes of his matches.
Good Lord.
Alcache, Juarez, Mexico, Medic, Kozak. There appear to be photocopies from the mid-70s about him winning the title. Again, more, it appears to be his notes. And then there's just copies of other letters. Here's a copy of a letter from Salvador Luteroth, but it's in Spanish, so I'm not going to try. Again, there's lots of official documents he's attached here. Here's a copy of a telegram in Spanish about the whole thing. Is there anything in English here?
Well, if we could find somebody that could interpret this, we might could get to the bottom of this long stirring controversy about whether or not Gory Guerrero got screwed out of the light heavyweight title.
Here's a letter. Which came first here? I'll read this one first. September 27th, 1962, the Mexico City Commission, Florida number 10, 20 Paso, Mexico City, DF, Mexico. Gentlemen, at the recent convention of the National Wrestling Alliance in St. Louis, Missouri, on August 24th and 25th, the membership has decided to vacate the light heavyweight title as recognized by our organization. Gory Guerrero, who has held the title, has been wrestling and apparently booking wrestlers around El Paso, and thus has not defended the title in Mexico City, where he originally won it.
Aha!
We felt that Salvador Luteroth, who is a member of our organization, should have the services of the light heavyweight champion, and have, therefore, informed him, also, the promoters of Houston, also the promoters of Houston, Texas area, to begin a tournament, and the winner of the tournament will be recognized as the new light heavyweight champion by our alliance. Senor Luteroth was unable to attend our meeting due to other businesses, and had no idea that such a resolution would be adopted. When a new champion is crowned, and if Gory Guerrero wants to challenge this champion later, we will have every right to do so. Would like to hear from your organization as to whether you will go along with the National Wrestling Alliance in the recognition of a new light heavyweight champion. Sincerely, Sam Mushnick, Executive Secretary, National Wrestling Alliance.
And this letter was addressed to a variety of people, or who specifically?
This was addressed to the Mexico City Commission. Who wrote back.
I see. Oh!
Here's a letter, and looks like this is in English, from the Commission de Boxe y Lucha Libre, November 13th, 1962, Sam Mushnick, the Claridge Hotel, St. Louis. Sir, we acknowledge receipt of your letter of September 2, referring to your alliance's decision to vacate the light heavyweight title. The contents of your second paragraph are absolutely incorrect. Gory Guerrero has defended the title in Mexico City on 2 occasions against the former champion Rey Mendoza and against Suji Sito. In addition, we have gathered enough information to learn that Gory Guerrero is at present one of the most active champions, having defended his title from all the outstanding contenders in his class. The mere fact, there's a red X next to this one. The mere fact that Gory Guerrero does not wish to sell his services to the Mexican promoter Lucharoth is not, to the thinking of this commission, reason enough to deprive Gory Guerrero from his well-earned title. The Mexico City Boxing and Wrestling Commission, as affiliate of the National Wrestling Association of America, will continue recognizing Gory Guerrero as World's Light Heavyweight Champion as long as he is recognized by the National Wrestling Association of America, or he is defeated in the ring by a better man. Signed, Jose Govarrubia, the wrestling, that word I can't really make out, the Mexico City Boxing and Wrestling Commission.
But hey, you don't mess with Jose Gargiola.
What do you think of the fact that Sam Mushnick sent this letter and that they said no?
Well, as I said, the commissions down there were not beholden to the promotions, and they were they are, I guess, still possibly an independent body. And then the different promoters, they would try to, excommunicate some of these guys, but the commission would need, and they would treat it like it was a fucking shoot. And I'm sure that since Salvador Lucharoth was the NWA promoter in Mexico, when they had the meeting, he told Sam Muchnick, this fucking guy's running his own shows. He's booking these other guys. He's not defending the title. And so they stripped him in absentia and then sent that letter, and they got it sent back to him. That's why they're even if the way that I understand it, and again, if they've changed it in modern times, somebody let me know, but I think it's still the case that if you hold one of the recognized championships, the promotions themselves, at least until modern times, didn't control a championship in Mexico. It was whoever won it could quit one promotion and go to the next one. And, the commission would back them up because they were still, the champion, which led to much more ill will. That's what I'm saying.
Imagine if it was like that here. If you jump from one company to another, you just take the title, not just the title, but the actual recognition of the championship with you.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Here
I have a newspaper article. July 1964, El Paso, Texas, 1840, see wild, gory Sheik bout. And there are a ton of photos of this bout that look like a bloody mess. Gory Guerrero and the Sheik were licking their wounds today after staging one of the wildest wrestling matches in recent seasons. All rules were out the window during last night's frantic test at the Coliseum, which lasted 22 minutes and got nowhere. Both fighters were disqualified. Hold on there. 22 minutes for the Sheik. What do you think of that?
Well, but no. This was several things. Is 1964. Because remember in the 50s, he was athletic. He took bumps. He, did business. And also because he's in West Texas, he's working for Dory Sr. and that office. And the Dory Sr. and the Sheik went so far back, he would come down and work extended periods for Dory Sr., even when he had just bought his own territory and blah, blah, blah. And he would, he had to work in Texas at that point. So he was still a guy that, would get in there and work hard and not do all of the crazy shit in 5 minutes. But it's Sputnik Monroe told us all one time, he said, Dory Sr. called me up and said, Sputs, can you come into Amarillo? I've had the Sheik down here for a month. Everybody works like the Sheik. I need somebody to teach him to take bumps again. But he would put in time and do his shit.
A paid crowd of 1840, second largest of the year, had a little respite during a brawl in which both strongmen slugged one another through the ropes and drew blood. The Sheik started the illegal activities by using a small stick to open a wound on Guerrero's forehead. But the crowd roared in approval when Guerrero snared the dubious weapon and slashed a cut across the Sheik's head. Referee Lee.
This is in the newspaper, by the way.
Referee Lee Ortega had little luck controlling the match and received almost as much punishment as the principals. Ortega and both fighters were splattered by blood. The Sheik added to Guerrero's misery by walloping his head against a ring post, then biting him on the forehead. Referee Ortega finally decided to halt the match after both fighters took turns belting him to the canvas. The match ended without a fall, thus squelching Guerrero's hopes of a quick revenge for a previous drubbing handed out by the Sheik. The slugfest continued after the bell until both fighters were separated by wrestlers who jumped into the ring. The mysterious medics made it 8 in a row in the other headliner by quieting Gentleman Ed Sharp and Hangman Bud Cody in 33 minutes. I'm not too familiar with them. Do you know them?
Was Ed Sharp? I'm thinking of Ed Miller, the third Miller brother. I don't think Ed Sharp was related to Mike and Ben, or was he? But I don't know. I don't know Bud. But see, that's the thing, is they shot an angle. That was an angle. It went out there, big fucking double juice, bloody the referee up, no contest, pull apart. They probably came back the next week with a cage or, a strap match or whatever the fuck. And 1,800 people this was El Paso, right? Or was it?
El Paso, July 64.
For El Paso, couple thousand people in the old building there wasn't bad. And they probably did better for the rematch because of that publicity.
Yeah, what do you think of doing like a match like that? I mean, assuming they had an idea this was going to be one of their better drawing crowds of the year. This was the second best as of this point in July, midway. Doing a match like that, do people feel fulfilled? Like, okay, we've seen it, or is the reaction we need to see more of it?
No, that was the predominant, overwhelming feeling in the building at that point in time in wrestling was we still want to see the Sheik get his ass kicked by Gory. So when we watch TV next week, are they going to give Gory a stipulation where, we can control this fucking guy? Oh, it's a cage. Yes, I want to go back. The people went to see the babyface win, and if you got them hooked in the program, they would go until the babyface won. That's why Jerry Lawler and Jimmy Valiant did, I think, like 11 out of 13 weeks in Memphis, and the same thing in Louisville. And Dundee and Lawler did 9 or 10 out of 11 or 12 weeks in 77 because the people just kept coming and coming until the babyface finally gets even. And now they just, we've seen that match already. Well, it'd all be different fucking matches. Every single one of them would be different with different rules and different finishes and different happenings in them. But now people are like, we've seen that match. That defeats the whole purpose of fucking wrestling.
Well, Jim, to finish these results here, the Medics' victory was made difficult by the handcuffs used to keep one of them chained to the ring post. Other matches, Paul Harrison and Arnold Patrick drew. Wayne Shaddle topped Bobo Johnson, and Gordo Martinez and Gordo Chihuahua teamed up to whip Kenny Mack and Kurt Von Hess.
My God, I've actually heard of Gordo Chihuahua and Kurt Von Hess and Kenny Mack. Was that the guy that became one of the Dillingers with Don Fargo and got his leg shot off?
Oh, I'm not sure. That's interesting. I didn't even think of that. Well, yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to think. Kenny Mack became somebody else. I'm trying to think. Well, nevertheless. Yeah, you can see it wasn't really an all-star card. They were carrying the weight up top. Were Gory and Sheik.
Yeah, it didn't sound like it was the talent being booked out of Amarillo or, main event talent from Texas that time. I think for some of these shows, and again, if he's on the outs of the NWA, they're literally writing letters to the fucking commission.
Well, see, that's why I'm saying it sounds like Gory was running the town himself, booking people that worked around West Texas, and he got the Sheik from Dory. He didn't just bring the Sheik from Detroit to work El Paso. So the Funks were still supporting Gory, but maybe not giving him access to everybody.
Well, there it is, and there's more here, so maybe we'll do a part 2 in the future, but from the files, Gory Guerrero, any final thoughts hearing this and hearing the biggest star and promoter for that town dealing directly with the publisher of the programs and the magazines?
Well, that's not unusual because, if the biggest star in the town is also the promoter, he's dealing with everybody sooner or later. I mean, I was a massive megastar, but when I was promoting Louisville here, I was still dealing with the common people. But it's a fascinating look at not only the political behind the scenes manipulations, even back then in Mexico, especially, but even involving the NWA and Sam Muchnick and their convention, but also the way that a lot of the old time wrestlers said, no, this is my fucking belt. Nobody beat me for it. I'm going to defend it on my shows. And I'm the champion until somebody beats me on one of my shows. I love that.
It's interesting too, because the complaint that he hasn't defended the title, the commission says that's not true. We actually know for a fact he's defended the title in Mexico. You have heard in the past about the office being the stooge to the commission to punish the wrestlers they're unhappy with. Didn't work here.
Well, and because it's a different ball game down there with the way that commission is set up. Here, the commissions, unless they were just complete assholes to the business in general, were way more likely to favor the promoters because they did regular business with them for years and years and years. And they're the ones that paid the taxes, and they're the ones that licensed the red. They get their money from them. So, they either were pains in the ass to the promoters in a place where they didn't particularly like or understand the business, or they were more likely to be on the promoter's side than the boys in the places where they'd been old cronies for so long. But you never actually got any commissions in the United States. It was really a boon and beneficent to the wrestlers at large. But in Mexico, it happens.
Well, there it is from the files. And of course, Jim, perhaps you're someone who makes files or wants to sell files. Perhaps you sell things that people buy. Perhaps you make things that people want. And of course, if you have to sell them, you need the right partner. And we know exactly who could partner with the listeners.
Well, that's right, because ladies and gentlemen, if you've got something that a lot of people want, then you need somebody on your side to protect you, because those people are going to come and take it away from you. You want to get a good price for it. They want to knock you over the head and steal it. Well, not with Shopify around, because I'll tell you what, Shopify, if people come to your house and try to steal your shit, Shopify will have them surrounded down on the ground in a ground and pound.
No, that's not what they do.
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Metaphorically or figuratively or literally, they will not be there. They will not.
They will always support you from afar. From afar, yes. Ladies and gentlemen.
Without bodily contact, yes.
Yes, there will be no bodily contact involved in this. But folks, if you've got an idea for a business, if you have a dream, some way you want to retire. Let's say you want to sell sex toys on the beach somewhere. Well, Shopify is the people that can deliver those dildos all day long. Well, because they're the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States is powered by Shopify. They got that shop app and the purple button. But they can also get you started with your own design studio, hundreds of ready-to-use templates, building you a beautiful online store to match your style. Let's say you're flamboyant. Then you can have all the colors of the rainbow. Let's say you're morbid. You can just have basic black. But it's all about the style of the Framistat that you'd like to sell to the American public and those around the world at large. And Shopify can help you with your product descriptions and even enhance your photography. And they can help you like you've got a marketing team behind you. They're going to send 4 or 5 people over to your house. You're going to give them some flyers, and they're going to go around the whole neighborhood and hand these son of a bitches out and tell everybody about what you've got going on. That's what's called a social media campaign, Brian. because you're going out in society and you've got media, the flyers, and you're campaigning. And only occasionally will you get ticketed for littering when the people throw away the things that you give them.
Once again, we are talking about our fine friends who run a fine service, the fine people at Shopify, and of course they can help all the listeners out there who are running their own businesses online. You could work with Shopify and everything will be just
great. And you can actually make money at it.
That's right.
If you're running your own shit, you made the first mistake. You know, if you're representing yourself in court, you got a fool for a client. And if you're trying to do this shit in this today's modern hurry-scurry, complicated world, well, you just shit and fell back in it. But Shopify is your commerce expert. They've got world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns. As a matter of fact, they have space booked on those big old barges that go from here to China. So they can just send shit to China all day long.
Well, we don't know.
You know what that means?
Well, you don't know what that means. We don't know anything about this.
Well, they say they're experts in international shipping. They can ship things from one nation all to the other internationally. And it's all about making you money. But you know what? It doesn't sound like that anymore. Shopify has a brand new sound effect, custom made, just to insinuate to you how much money you're going to be rolling in. You're going to be like a pig in filth, rolling in the dirty, filthy cash money that you're going to make when Shopify is in charge of your business platform. Play that sound for him, Brian. Is that it? Kind of sounds like a belly dancer with some of them clicky things on her thumb and finger going click, click when she throws her hiney in your face. I don't know. I think the money should have a deeper...
Belly dancers aren't known for throwing their heinies in people's face. It's all about the belly.
Well, it's the side of the hiney. No, the hips go sideways.
The hips and the belly, yeah.
Yeah, well, see, the belly's not going forward. The belly's going sideways, but the hip will hit you in the head if you don't watch out, and then you'll hear bells like that. But I think money should have more bass to it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't want to have some kind of outlaw sound effect going on here. But folks, right now, turn your big business idea into cha-ching with Shopify on your side like that.
I'm sorry, I thought you were triggering it. I didn't realize you were just talking normal.
I can't tell you what to do with your own cha-chinger, but it sounds like a rat ringing a bell wanting some more grain. Sign up for your $1 a month trial, period, right now, and start selling today at shopify.com/Cornette. Cornette is what that is. That's how you spell my name. A $1 a month trial period. They can show you what they can do for you, where you will be living on easy street, farting through silk, shitting in tall cotton, and enjoying life in the fast lane while on a beach somewhere, while your online empire takes care of the rest. Shopify.com/Cornette, $1 a month trial period, and save. Start selling today and saving today. You'll save money when you sell more, and you have more, so you'll save more. And then you'll get some more. Get more at Shopify.com/Cornette.